Believe it or not, Michigan is home to over 900,000 small businesses. In 2021, state officials say more than 150,000 Michiganders applied to start small businesses. Keep in mind, that's during the pandemic. So how does this benefit the state, economy, and the community? Well, for more insight on that, we're joined by CEO of the Lee Group, Mark S. Lee. Thanks a lot for coming in today, Mark.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Really enjoy you coming in and getting involved in our business segment here every Monday. Why don't you tell us, take a wide view of things and give us a general idea why small and business is so important to the community?
Yeah, small businesses are very important to the community. Why? Because quite frankly, they're the job creators. And if you go back and look at over a 10-year window from the SBA, the Small Business Administration, small businesses have created 60 to 70% of the net new jobs in this country. So a lot of times we think it's the big businesses. We love our big businesses, don't get me wrong, but quite frankly, small businesses create the economic value, they create the jobs, and they're important for each local community as well.
Yeah, now we were talking about the pandemic and how many businesses were actually started during the pandemic. So, I mean, it seemed like it was a good time to start your own business. Have those businesses been able to survive for the most part? Because although there are a lot being created, I mean, small businesses they have a hard go.
A lot of them have made it, have survived, and a lot have not. Let's be rather candid about it. Going into the pandemic, the economy was humming. A lot of small businesses were opening. Then all of a sudden the pandemic hit, and some businesses did not pivot. And as a result of that, some quite frankly closed. We're seeing that here in Detroit. I get contacted a lot by a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of small businesses. Several have opened, but also several have shut. So it's really, we're still in that challenging period right now.
Now, when you look at the differences between small business and large businesses, what are the unique challenges that the small businesses face?
Always number one is access to capital. Access to capital. And that always rises to the top. Number two, what we're finding is the impact of inflation. Now, the inflation is impacting everyone, including small, large businesses as well. But think about it, if you're a small business and you're trying to get financing, and all of a sudden the costs go by 3 to 5%, you only employ 2 to 3 people. If you have a tight labor market, which is another issue, that's almost a perfect storm for not being able to be successful.
You know, I was driving by one of the fast food chains the other day, and I saw a sign out front that said hiring $16 an hour. Now, I know that's a long way from when I was flipping burgers. I know, times change, inflation's priced in. But how hard is it for, like, big chains like that to hire employees right now? Do people not want to work in those jobs?
People have options right now. People have options. There are 10 million jobs for 4.5 million people who are looking for work. So think about that. There are 2 openings per person, essentially, for an active person that's looking for a job. So what you're finding, that's not atypical in the restaurant industry. That is typical across all industries. So the point here is that people want to work, but they have options. And right now we're in a labor market where the unemployment rate continues to come down, and small businesses are feeling the heat. What do I do? Where do I find these people? Always a challenge.
I have some stats here I just want to reel off. In the first 3 quarters of 2021 alone, small businesses with fewer than 50 employees created more than 170 jobs. The fastest start to small business growth in 23 years. That's according to the Michigan Bureau of Labor. Now, also, the state saw an explosion of entrepreneurs and business owners beginning with new ventures in 2021. 150 new small business applications filed to start businesses, which is 59% more than in 2019. So we're going back a few years, but I mean, it takes a while to compile these stats. So, I mean, the economy in our state, it's really driven by small business.
Historically, the economy in our state has been driven by the manufacturing sector. And what's happened, we're seeing a transition into technology. We're seeing a transition in small businesses. One of the reasons that you're seeing an increase, Chris, quite frankly, is that a lot of people lost their jobs during the pandemic. Remember, at one point, the United States had 20 million people unemployed. And a lot of those individuals have decided not to go back into the workforce defined as corporate America or the larger businesses. Some have taken their buyouts and they decide to invest and start their own business. And that's why you're seeing the numbers exploding here in the state of Michigan, across Metro Detroit, as well as across the country.
I've only lived in Detroit, the Metro Detroit area for 6-7 months now, but everyone I talk to has talked about, like, the revitalization this town has gone through in the last decade or so. How much does small business contribute to that?
A lot. And I would tell you, we have a guest coming on. You have a guest coming a little bit later. April Anderson is a great example. The corridors in the city, 7 Mile Livernois area, you go to Livernois between 7 and 8 Mile Road, full of small businesses. You go to downtown Detroit right now with District Detroit and what the Illich organization is doing down there, you see a ton of small businesses going into the city, into downtown Detroit. So what you're seeing, I grew up in the city, And I remember it was all manufacturing was the big three, and right. But now you're seeing this growth of small businesses making an impact in the number of people and being employed in the city of Detroit, as across the entire metropolitan area as well. One other thing I want to point out in terms of the importance, think about this for a second. The city of Detroit has 62,000 small businesses, according to the 2012 U.S. Census data, the fourth largest city in the country. If each one of those individuals, businesses employs 1 to 3 people, you're talking close to 200,000 people being employed. That's another reason why it's important to have successful small businesses, not just here, but across the country.
Yeah, that's a huge number. I know we're talking about small businesses. I just want to kind of get your impact.
Yeah.
You mentioned the big three. Obviously, they're in talks with the UAW there. They're coming up against their deadline. I mean, if they do hit the picket lines, what kind of impact does that have on the city? I mean, they're a huge employer.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. I saw numbers with 4 to 5 billion across the country. You're talking about dollars coming out of people's pockets, dollars that people are not going to have to spend. If they don't have the dollars to spend, they're not going to go to small businesses. They're not going to go to larger businesses. They're going to stay at home. So it's going to have a ripple effect, not just on the big three, but all across the city, the metropolitan area where people rely on these jobs. They also rely on disposable income. It will have a major economic impact, not just locally, but nationally.
Yeah, it's all tied in, all tied in like that.